Check out this massive silver deal that I just did.
This is called being over leveraged because I bought kind of a lot. This is like $27,000 worth of stuff. I've already got all the gold sold. I pre-ordered a bunch of gold for a guy and I've just kind of been accumulating it as I get it. So this is all going to him. But these 100-ounce bars, I need to sell right away because I have a lot of cash tied up in these. Plus I have a bunch of 10-ouncers and a bunch of generics. So I'd like to sell all of this like immediately, like today.
So how much is your 1 ounce gold?
This is $20.75. That's cheaper than you'll find it online. They're in the mid 2100s online. They're really tough to get. And then I got these 10th ouncers too. These are $2.50 each.
How's business?
Good, very good. Great, can't complain.
You know, I have to hand it to you. I said this to my wife she's parked right there, but I said, you know, to just starting a business, you know, I said, he's not even, I mean, you're a young man. I mean, you haven't had that much, you've only been at it like really a couple of years, right?
2, that's it.
Fabulous.
Yeah, well, I threw myself headfirst into this thing. I read lots about it. I did lots of research. You know, I learned from him, School of Hard Knocks. Yeah, I'm not perfect. I make mistakes still. I just made a mistake this week. But, you know, I'm learning as I go. And I feel I have come a long way as well. So I appreciate that. Oh, fabulous. I'm desperately in need of gold.
You're interested in those?
I certainly am.
I also have a couple American Eagles.
Cool.
But yeah, I'm experienced with buying.
Yeah, it's not selling angle.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, let me just Sigma these to test them out.
Is it generally good to keep those in the?
Yeah, I mean, collectors like it, people like it.
Okay.
Okay, looks like this one's good. Where'd you get these from?
Jam bullion.
Cool. Got them for long?
That works through the plastic.
Yeah.
Oh.
This won't do 100-ounce bars.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah.
100-ounce bar of gold. I mean, yeah. Hey.
Or silver.
So this Morgan silver dollar is going out for a trade. I'm trading it for 3 ounces of silver from a follower. They asked me what kinds of Morgans I had that were graded. And so yeah, they offered to trade me 3 ounces, which I'm gonna sell between, I don't know, $33 and $35 each. I'm asking $88 on this, so I'm basically just getting more money than I would be otherwise. It's a great deal. And trading is one of those weird things in this business where, I don't know, there's not many businesses where you just do trades like I do in mine. All right, so I got a bunch of supplies from the hardware store. I'm gonna resume cleaning the basement. This is a ridiculous amount of work that needs to be done. I need to scrape all these walls off and spray them with anti-mold spray. Look how shitty the floor looks too. Like honestly, this project is gonna take me like months and months, but once it's done down here, it'll look nice. Or it'll look really shitty and it'll be like a completely wasted my time. One of the two. Yeah, this is gonna be a work in progress. It's gonna take me a while. So now I have an interview with Treasure Town, which is like one of the biggest YouTube channels in this sphere. I'm really happy that they wanted to do an interview with me. Unfortunately, I'm having kind of a bad hair day. It doesn't help that I have like paint in my hair now. I suppose this isn't exactly an industry where one is trying to look pretty. Yes, though I always try to look pretty. Keywords try.
Hello everybody, Christian from Treasure Town here, and I'm really excited. Today we have Evan Kale, the pawn man and the owner of St. Louis Park Gold and Silver in St. Louis Park, Minnesota. So welcome, Evan.
All right, thanks Christian for having me. So yeah, 2 years ago, I was working as a waiter and I was in my late 20s. I had tried to become a writer. I'd kind of failed at it. I'd written some books, self-published them on Amazon, but I just wasn't selling very many copies. And the whole starving artist thing was losing its cute factor as I was about to be turning 30. And I got a tip from my dad that an old guy with a gold shop that had been in town forever here in Minneapolis was desperate for a young person. Those were the words that my dad used. So, you know, gold shop, coins, what, come on, no way. So I kind of laughed it off. But then I had a shift that was extremely frustrating at the restaurant. So frustrating that I found myself in the back parking lot calling this guy. And I was like, hey, like I hear you're looking for a young person. I don't know anything about this business, but I'm intrigued. So I stopped by his shop. I walked in. It was like being in a time machine going back to 1980, looking around his shop. He just had so much stuff that he'd been sitting on for decades. It was like a museum. So this guy wasn't on the internet at all, and I immediately saw an opportunity just looking around to, help him out, digitize his business, bring a new presence into his store that he clearly wasn't using. So he reluctantly hired me. He said, look, I need to trust you. You need to prove your worth here. I've had people steal from me. You're going to be around hundreds of thousands of dollars at a time. So, we're going to take this very slowly and lightly. So the whole summer goes by, and I basically doubled his revenue, like in a very, very, very short amount of time. I said, this is going so well. Maybe it's time to hire me full time. So he took me full time. And then I started exploring different stuff on social media, taking advantage of every space that I possibly can. Because, eBay is one thing, but eBay's fees are outrageous. Meanwhile, I'm reading every book I can get my hands on about gold, about coins, about silver. I'm just devouring knowledge, learning about this industry. Because, like I said, I knew nothing about it. So, I'm working full time at this place. I leave the restaurant, I leave the service industry, and God, what was the guy paying me? Like $800-900 a week. It was more money than I'd ever made in my life. I was so poor. So this is starting to transform my life. So one day last summer, I brought my camera into work and I filmed myself because I've been posting videos on YouTube for a long time, and I would get the question, what do you do for a job? So I brought the camera in one day and I created the first episode of what was then Evan Kale's A Pawn Star. I didn't tell the owner or his girlfriend about it mainly because his girlfriend was crazy and would fight me on everything that I would try and do. And it's just like, I know I have a good idea and you're going to shoot it down, so I'm just not even gonna ask you because frankly, it's not your business anyway. Again, her name it wasn't her business. She wasn't even married to the guy. And one of my followers randomly started calling me Pawn Man, and I just thought, oh, that's catchy, that's funny, I'm gonna run with that. By going online, you create a whole new audience for your means to sell stuff. You have eyes all over the world instead of just locally.
But what are you thinking, how do you want to expand your business? What do you want to do to grow? What are you thinking in the next 5 or so years?
Yeah, so this location that I'm at right now, it's an old theater, and it's been broken up into 4 or 5 different units. I don't know. I'm on the smallest unit, and the biggest is 4 doors down, and it's this giant showroom. And so I want to expand into there. I want to have multiple people working for me. I want to really grow this company so that there's, this is a big gold and silver coin dealer. I want to have lots of stuff for sale here. I don't want to just have this tiny little shop. So I'm all about expanding the size of my business. I want more people working for me. I also want to expand Pawn Man. I want to get a TV deal. That's been my ultimate goal kind of since I started. It's kind of marrying where I've come from in life, my ambitions that I wanted to succeed at, and where I've ultimately ended up going. Because I told you I was passionate about being a writer, a screenwriter. That was my real passion, was working in film and movies, and I've written and produced some stuff here in Minnesota. And it's film has always been one of my passions. So making that work, I like to act, I like to be a showman on camera, like I've said. Making all that work and come full circle and getting a TV deal or making something happen with Pawn Man on TV is my goal for my social media presence, or my ultimate kind of pedestal that I can see myself on. If I get there, I don't know, we'll see. I hope so. I think I produce interesting content that other people, it's unique enough where I'm not ripping off Pawn Stars, I'm something else entirely. What is going on, you guys? We're Between the Pawn. I'm Evan Kale, and I'm gonna reshoot this because I don't like the way this is framed. What is going on, you guys? We are Between the Pawn. I'm Evan Kale, and I own a gold and silver business. God damn, I love saying that. How's the week been? As always, pretty good. Business is getting better and better. I did make a really expensive mistake this week that, I don't really like to admit when I make mistakes because I like to, I want to seem like I'm an expert. And the truth is, I've only been doing this for 2 years. I'm not an expert. I'm learning how to become an expert, but I make mistakes here and there. And I made one this week that was costly, $600 costly. I don't know where it is. It's a gold bracelet, and it's not gold, and I paid gold weight on it. I paid $27.50 a gram for 22 grams of crap. So, whoops. When I have a smelter that I work with, and whenever I get a package from the smelter after they've taken a bunch of stuff away, that means they're sending me something back that isn't good, which means I paid gold price for something that's not good. My first big mistake here at the shop, and so I still made money on the deal, but $600 sucks. There's a lot I can do with $600. I need every dime I can get right now opening up my new business. So that was a mistake. I regret doing that. I also, though, was able to close a huge gold and silver deal this week with a customer. And I've been starved for gold, as you guys know. I finally have some gold bullion in stock, and I haven't had like any. I mean, it seems like everything just kind of happens at once. My dad told me, and we'll get into this in a minute, with his business, when he opened up his own business, he was really slow to start. And, he thought kind of the same as me. He would leave this terrible ex-employer and like open up his own shop and it'd just be successful off the bat, and it took a minute. But then once it started moving, he said it just took off and I never looked back until he went to prison. So not only do I have gold bullion and silver bullion in stock in mass, most of what I showed you guys in that little snippet, I've already sold it. And I was able to make a TikTok that got a fucking ton of hits and it got me a ton of followers. Finally, my TikTok presence is moving again. And I had been stunted in growth at 43,000 for months. And so this week, my TikTok has just kind of taken off again. So I was able to sell like most of that gold bullion, or most of that bullion that I showed you, but I still have a good amount in the store. And I had somebody a few weeks ago buy a large amount of gold from me. They placed an order with me. I had them pay in advance, and I just went about tracking it down. And I had them lock in the. See, this is a little risky. I had them lock in the price at the amount, I don't want to say exactly how much they got, but they locked in a set price and then gold dropped. And so I put one of my dealers up to getting me as much gold as he could, and we locked in a price, so it was profitable for me. But then gold dropped, and because I had somebody come in and sell me so much bullion this week, I was able to buy it at a really good price, and I'm gonna just give all this bullion to this other customer and slow the other order that I had, because I had my other dealer looking for gold, but I called him yesterday. I was like, look, just don't get any more. What you got is good. I have enough to fulfill this order. So yeah, it worked out well for me, but that could have gone a different way. The gold markets could have shifted a different way, and it could have been difficult for me to make a good buck on the amount of money that this deal cost. So that was good. Basically, yeah, business is good. But now I'm gonna answer some questions, or I'm gonna answer 3 questions from viewer Mike Lawless, because he asked me some questions in my last Between the Pawn. So Mike wants to know, how long till the company you used to work for goes out of business? Do you think he can last without you? How long will the e-commerce social media momentum carry him? Do you think they will learn how to do it and keep the eBay? So I don't want to, I don't know how long they're going to last. It is of my opinion, they're only open right now because they don't want to give me the satisfaction of closing. It's just an opinion I have. But let me say this. There were upwards of 50 packages a day that were going out in the heyday of me working there, which was like January, February of this year. In fact, the most profitable week that we had while I worked there was the week where the boss and his crazy girlfriend went out of town, and it was just Juliet and I running the shop. They left us with 20 grand, they came back to like 50. So like, you go on vacation, you make $30,000, you don't have to fucking do anything. You know how rare that is? So by losing us, they lost their entire online presence, not just the social media presence that I had created. Juliet and I were the ones running their eBay and stewarding their online presence and like keeping that going, because they don't know how to do any of that stuff. So they lost all that. And essentially, they went back to doing the old way of doing business, which is the way of the dinosaur. There's no possible way that there's any longevity to that. So I don't think they're going to be in business for long, because I know they lost a ridiculous amount of revenue when I left. They lost their ability to sell weird things, because I had him buying stuff that he never would have purchased before. Anything that was interesting, I insisted on buying so that I could flip it, and I would. So he lost that ability, he lost eBay, he lost all of the social media momentum I had created, all the commerce that I had driven, hundreds of thousands of dollars in a very short amount of time. All of that up in smoke. So by losing that, I don't know how he's doing. He's not doing as well as he was. There's no way. And on top of that, I'm doing well. I'm doing a lot of deals. And one guy this week told me he came to me instead of him just because of my Google reviews. So I have surpassed them on Google, and Google is huge. And I've surpassed them in 3 months. And they were #1 in town. So, I'm giving them a hard fight, and I can't imagine that I'm not having an impact on their business. So I don't know what their plan is. I don't talk to them. I don't want anything to do with them. But I'll tell you this much: they were fools for letting me go, and I'm thriving here. So, respectfully curious, what is the minimum target you'd be happy clearing the first year? Do you expect the store to be profitable in the first year? Honestly, I don't know. Look, if I could turn a overall profit for the money that I have sunk into this place, opening it up, the $25,000 it cost me to open my doors, plus the 50 or so thousand that I borrowed to have operating capital, call it 100 grand. If I can clear that in the first year, shit, I don't think I will, but if I can, that's great. Look, I'm doing really well, and as long as I can keep doing deals, wheels and not make mistakes like I did, and just keep the wheels of social media turning and keep my Google presence growing, it's only getting stronger, then I don't see any reason why within 1 year from right now, I'm extremely profitable and I'm living a good life. You know, I'm doing well. I am still a little nervous because I own my own business. Things could go awry and I could end up homeless. I don't think that's going to happen, but it could happen. And that's just, you know, a very stressful sort of Damocles to have dangling over your head. So, you know, if I could turn as long as I can pay Juliet fairly and pay myself to have a roof over my head and have enough to go to bars like once a week, then I'm doing something right and I'm happy. But, you know, like I said, as long as I can keep the doors open here for the first year and start to come near turning a profit, then I'm happy. Can you explain the difference between a pawn dealer and that hold for a day rule? Pawn is just consignment. Okay, yeah. So basically, a pawn shop and me, or I should say a pawn shop and I, are two different entities. A pawn shop, to use blunt terms, is a bank for poor people. Let's say I have this Star Wars Pez dispenser. Let's say I want to pawn this. I will bring this into a pawn shop. Let's say it's worth $100. I will bring it into the pawn shop and say, hello, good sir, I would like to pawn this. It is mine, I have ID, I can fill out the forms, you know, to have the merchandise cleared, it belongs to me. I would like to pawn it for $100, that is what it is worth. And the pawnbroker would say, well, no, because I'm not gonna pay you what it's worth, why would I do that? I will give you a pawn loan for 30 bucks. 30% on the dollars, shall we say, a generous pawn loan. And I say, $30? I was hoping more 50. And the pawnbroker would say, look, 30 is my final offer, take it or leave it. And I will say, fine. So I will give the pawnbroker this piece of merchandise. They will give me the agreed upon pawn loan. I will fill out paperwork. They will hold on to this for 2 weeks. They will register it with their local police department. They will make sure it is not stolen. If it is stolen, they have to surrender it. They lose the money, therein lies the risk. There are, well, I guess I'm not an expert in explaining how they go about getting their money back, but you basically lose your money if the item is hot. You gotta surrender it, because it was never someone's to transact in the first place. Let's say it's not hot. So me with my $30, you know, for whatever I'm using this $30 for, let's say I fulfill what I need the money for, and now I want to get my Pez dispenser back. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go into the pawn shop and I'm going to give them back their $30 plus the weekly interest that they've been charging me. Every store is different. I can't even give you a rough figure of how much interest it is. It's not like, it's not like a payday loan or anything like that, but it's, you know, it's high interest. So let's say it's $5 a week and it's been 5 weeks. Well, I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna pay $55 and get this back. So by loaning me that $30, the pawnbroker made almost a 100% return on their loan in just a short amount of time. Let's say I don't come back, I think it's 90 days. It becomes the pawn shop's property, it is theirs to sell. But eventually it becomes the pawn shop's to sell after a certain amount of time has passed. So if I own this pawn shop, I would put it for sale in the pawn shop at $100. So then if I sell it, I make $70 off of it. It's basically as if I purchased it for $30. That's how pawn works. I don't do that. I don't do that because, number one, you need a license, you need special insurance, it becomes a mess. Number two, in Minnesota anyway, if I have a buy-sell business, I buy it, it's mine. I don't have to wait 2 weeks. I do have to do my due diligence to make sure it is not stolen. If it is stolen, and we can cover this in another, because I'm opening up a new can of worms now. If it is stolen, again, I have to surrender it. And I have seen that happen at the old shop. It only happened once, but I have seen it happen. So I buy an item outright. It becomes my property and I can do what I want with it. I can sell it, I can stick it up my ass. But yeah, that's basically the difference between a pawn shop and what I do. I'll tell you another thing with pawn shops, you basically have to buy everything, and there's, you know, I only buy certain things. I buy most things, but I only buy certain things. And with a pawn shop, they basically have to buy everything, and you're gonna end up inevitably with power tools. And power tools are expensive, and you'll fucking never be able to sell them, and you're gonna end up with a warehouse full of power tools that you're just gonna bleed money on. At least I learned that from Rick Harrison's book. It's a good book, by the way. I strongly recommend reading it. So, if you guys have viewer questions, please put them in the comment section. I'm happy to answer them on Between the Pawn. If you guys like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Share my videos. I could really use some more views here on YouTube. I put a ton of time into it, and my channel's kind of stalled. I haven't really grown much lately, so if you guys can, share my videos, become a Pawn Man Patreon. All the money I get goes toward improving the show. As you can see, I have a lavalier mic, so thank you, Pawn Man Patreons, for buying that for me. Check out my books. Follow me on my social media, at Pawn Man, at Evan Kale. I'll see you guys back here for another episode of Between the Pawn. Later, guys.